What is going on? My name is Tyler Lauder. I am joined with Aaron Benn. This is Second and Short, and here we are yet again with another 2020 NFL Draft and our divisional grades. And we're going to go to a very strong division. It's very top heavy. I think 2, maybe 3 teams did very well. Compared to most divisions, this is a very good outlook. Aaron, who we talking about today? Tell us how you're doing in whatever order.
Well, first of all, I am super. Thanks for asking. Today we're talking about the AFC North. We had a lot of good drafts in this division, and the only one that I personally wasn't as hyped up about, but I think we'll have to see in time how that works out. But let's get down to it.
All right, let's start with the Baltimore Ravens. This team is coming off of a 14-2 season. Lamar Jackson, MVP. And the Ravens are kind of, like we said in the offseason review and everything, they had a very good offseason. They got players for dirt cheap. They filled some needs. They really don't have much else to fill, in my opinion. A couple things, outside of like some luxury picks. We talked about the retirement of their longtime offensive guard.
Yeah, this offseason, Marshall Yanda announced that he was retiring. He was a great guard, played 13 years for the team. So that'll be someone that they'll really miss this year.
And while they didn't really address that too early, I mean, this team had a lot of draft picks. They had a first, 2 seconds. They traded down, ended up with 4 third-round picks. And I think the Ravens set themselves up to continue to take hold of this division. Let's talk about their draft picks. Now, you don't have to go through everybody, but let's kind of talk about who they took through days 1 and 2.
They started off at 28, taking Patrick Queen. This is a player that a lot of people had mocked to the Ravens, and I think it was a solid pick. Patrick Queen, he's got great football IQ. He's good at diagnosing the play right away, knowing what's happening. Sometimes he has trouble with finding the right angle. Sometimes he doesn't take the right angle to tackle the ball carrier, and that allows them to get by him. But that's something that can be helped. Plus, coming in, playing in a already strong defense, that should just do wonders for him. I think he'll develop really well on that team. In second round, they took J.K. Dobbins, a running back from OSU. This, to me, didn't feel like a real big positional need because they have Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards. But I think they just saw the value in him, saw that he was maybe slipping a little, so they just went ahead and took him. He's a very explosive back. It's very strong, very powerful. I think it's a kind of a good situation for him, not going into having to be that workhorse running back right away. It kind of reminds me of when the Titans took Derrick Henry and they already had DeMarco Murray. At first, it didn't really feel like a huge need for us, but the fact that he didn't have to handle the bulk of the carries his first couple seasons, I think, really helped him in the long run. So I think that could be the case with Dobbins as well. In the third round, I'll just list off. They had 4 picks, like you said. At 71, they took Justin Madubuike from Texas A&M, defensive tackle. And then at 92, they took Devin Duvernay, a wide receiver from Texas. Number 98, Malik Harrison, a linebacker from Ohio State. And then at 106, they took Tyree Phillips, a guard from Mississippi State. I'm curious to know who you liked from the third round that they took out of those 4 guys.
So this is great value picks here, and I liked a lot of people. What was surprising here is Malik Harrison was a surprise because they already got Patrick Queen, and I think this team needed to address the edge rusher a little bit more in these mid rounds. But double dipping on linebacker is fine. Matt Judon who's their premier edge rusher in my opinion, is on a franchise tag. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get a long-term deal. But I think this gives them flexibility if they can't get that deal to have 2 linebackers to grow together. But Devin Duvernay out of Texas is the pick that I'm almost just like fanboying over. I really like. I think this is a great fit. I think this team has a need at wide receiver. I think Marquise Brown is undersized and potentially is going to get broken one day. But this pick right here at pick 92, I think is a great value pick, considering how fast wide receivers were going. The fact, they were able to get this type of a talent wide receiver out of Texas this late, and it's still third round, but to me it's really late, was great value. Tell us a little bit more about him. Why should other people be excited?
Well, I know why you should be excited about him, because do you know who he's compared to in the NFL a lot?
Tell me.
Is Steve Smith Sr. You're one of your favorite players, I know, from his Panthers days. And I'll tell you why. This guy is someone who's kind of undersized. He's only 5'10", but he's 200 pounds. But he plays hard. He played like Steve Smith. He didn't take anything from anyone. He wasn't afraid to hit people. He went up, made those plays.
Got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, he didn't play like he was 5'9", and Devin Duvernay doesn't play like he's 5'10", or he's listed 5'11" in some places. But yeah, he's also got blazing speed. He's ran a 4.39.40, which is great. So I think he fits in really well with that team and with that culture. So I think that was a really good pickup for them in the third.
These are like my favorite types of players, especially at the receiver position, because I think the receiver position gets glorified as like divas.
Yeah.
And I think Steve Smith kind of like transcended that position by just like being such a gritty fighter and like not backing down from cornerbacks, linebackers, media, his own players on his own team. And Duvernay isn't going to like punch his own cornerbacks on his, during training camp. But I just think he's going to have this, he just has this fighter mentality that normally we would associate with a Baltimore Ravens defender for being such gritty and tough.
Yeah, that's something that you can't teach. Like, that's not something that you can coach into someone.
It's a mentality.
It's not technique that you can teach someone. It's just the player and how he plays the game. Another player I really like that you talked about was Malik Harrison. I read an interview with him, and he was really happy to be paired with Patrick Queen in Baltimore, because he was kind of saying how, like, if Patrick Queen is a faster, like, more agile linebacker, then Malik Harrison is bigger, he's stronger, he's really hard hitter in the run game. So he was kind of saying, like, I get the feeling that he saw them being a real like 1-2 punch here in the near future for the Ravens.
Which is possible. It's very possible. Now, I agree. I think Malik Harrison is going to be great for the run game for them. I like how hard he hits. The Ravens did very well in this draft. I thought they got a lot of good value. I was a big fan of we'll talk about him in a second. We'll touch on him almost last, but Geno Stone, the safety, in the 7th round here that they got out of Iowa. But let's go back up to the top. Talk about J.K. Dobbins. Now, I agree. This is a luxury pick. They don't need running back. And as you stated yourself, I mean, they have Mark Ingram. They have Gus Edwards. Let's not forget, just last year, they drafted Justice Hill in the 4th round. I know it's a 4th round pick, but that's still good value. And he had 58 rushes last year. They were just under 4 yards per carry. This team likes to run the ball. They like to run it a lot. They also, if they can, want to have some little dump-off passes for Lamar. I think that J.K. Dobbins is a very versatile running back. Some people have said that he is the best running back in this draft class. I think he is like, if you took DeAndre Swift and you took Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think J.K. Dobbins slots in right in between those two.
Yeah, I think he's a very explosive player, like I said. And like you said, the Ravens, they love to rush the ball. I mean, they set the record for most rushing yards in the season in NFL history. So, I mean, their backfield's going to get work done. And I think this will end up being good for J.K. Dobbins long term again because he won't have to come in and take and carry the ball 300, 350 times a season.
Yeah, well, I just think this is the best team for him because like the one thing that people have been knocking on him is his lack of ability to like pass protect. And this team, the Baltimore Ravens throw the ball about 50 times a year, so he's fine there because they're gonna run the ball 1,000 times. And you know what? I'm gonna say if the Ravens ran the ball 1,000 times, they would still have tremendous success. They could run the ball on first one, two, and three, and be totally fine, and just throw the ball in random red zone situations.
Well, I think that's kind of what they did. Like Lamar Jackson, he had the most touchdown passes in the league, but they were on a like his yards weren't very high. I'm not knocking him. That's just how the system worked, and I really like John Harbaugh for fitting his system to the quarterback. So I think he did that really well.
And I think I think a running back like J.K. Dobbins is going to be able to learn how to be a pro from Mark Ingram the same way Alvin Kamara did, and then he's going to be able to take that and he's going to be able to move forward once Mark Ingram starts slowing down a little bit this year, next year, 2 years from now. But Dobbins has great vision. He's got great lateral speed. I like this pick for them. Again, it's a luxury pick, but you know what? It's not their fault that he fell. It's not their fault that they have the ability to take him. You take good players when you can because they're going to help you be a better footballer. Simple as that. The Baltimore Ravens here, do you think they made a bad pick? Like, not to say a bad pick, but is there a pick that you think they should have just, like, maybe they should have waited? Maybe they should have got this. Is there a position they should have touched on? Like I said, edge rusher. Do you agree, disagree?
The one, like my least, I'm not going to say it was a bad pick because it was a good pick, but I'm having a hard time, like, picturing myself in the same position and still going with J.K. Dobbins because I just, even though he's a great player, I just was not, and all the good things we said about why it's a good fit and everything, I think they had other needs they could have taken care of. But again, that's just kind of personal preference, and that's not like a huge knock on them, is what I'm trying to say. I think maybe they could have gone offensive guard a bit earlier to try and replace Marshall Yanda. They only took a interior lineman in the 4th with Ben Bredesen from Michigan. So that's just kind of my personal feeling.
For a team that's as good as they are, they need to get more pressure on the edge, is my opinion. And Matt Judon was their best rusher off the edge. He had 9.5 sacks. I mean, if you're going to tell me that he's going to be just fine by himself and you can trust, I don't know, Tyus Bowser had 5 sacks and I don't have to go even farther. And Jalen Ferguson had 2.5. Like, I just don't trust the production that those guys are going to put forward. But the Ravens team is not afraid to trade. Who knows? There could be an edge rusher out there that they could trade for and pretty much give a 6th-round pick and a bag of chips, and some team will foolishly give them away.
They did add Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe this offseason.
Last thing, we're talking about this team for a long time. Geno Stone, Iowa. I mean, this guy, like I keep saying gritty, but I think he's gonna have the ability to come in, play special teams, learn behind Earl Thomas, and be able to potentially develop into one of these tough, hard-hitting safeties.
Yeah, I mean, no one's expecting him to come in and start right away because he's a 7th-round pick. But yeah, he definitely has like the physicality to come in and play his heart out and be like a decent depth player, maybe even start a few games here and there. So I think that was a good pick up there.
I just think he's a very sneaky safety. You know, the fact that I just think he has good reactive skills. I think he's very smart. I would say he does very well in zone coverage. I'm surprised he fell this far. I don't know. When I see like an Iowa safety, I get this like feeling like they're going to be a good player, and then I like look at it because like Iowa is just known for a couple things. Like the defenders they get fight hard for everything, and their tight ends and offensive linemen are great blockers. That's just kind of how I look at Iowa football. All right, let's give these guys a grade. I like a lot of things they did. I do think they could have done a little bit better, but I'm not going to knock on them because they are a great team. Let's give them a solid B.
Yeah, I think
Good
that's fair.
grade.
I think
Yeah.
that's fair.
All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that didn't have a first round pick because they traded away to the Miami Dolphins for Minka Fitzpatrick, which we could argue was better value than the number 18 pick. But let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who did they get in their limited draft?
All right. Well, the Steelers, I'm just gonna uh, list off their picks real quick, and then I'll talk about them more in depth. In the second, they took Chase Claypool, a wide receiver from Notre Dame. The third round, they took Alex Highsmith, who's an outside linebacker from Charlotte. In the fourth, they took Anthony McFarland, running back from Maryland. Also in the fourth, they took Kevin Dotson, a guard from Louisiana. In the sixth, they took Antoine Brooks, a safety from Maryland. And then in the seventh, Carlos Davis, a defensive tackle from Nebraska. Now, one of the things, when we were doing research for this episode, I posted a bunch of polls on Reddit to see what players thought about, or what the users there thought about the players that they took. And one interesting answer I got was from the Steelers fans. One guy was talking about he wasn't as excited about the players they took, more about the picks that they didn't make. So I wanted to see what you think about that, because he said, first of all, he said that he liked that they didn't take a running back in the early rounds, with the reasoning that running backs come in, play good for a few years, and then they want to get paid, and then their production drops off pretty quickly just because of the nature of their position. And then he was also very pleased that they didn't draft Jalen Hurts, because that was someone who had been projected to them a lot, like in the third or fourth round, as kind of a heir to Ben Roethlisberger's spot eventually. So what did you think of it? What do you think about that?
See, I'm the opposite. I understand Steelers fans have the way that they believe and feel, but I think at pick 49, they were in great position to steal J.K. Dobbins, and he would have been a nice compliment for James Conner, potentially being able to take over when James Conner's contract expires after this year. I don't think Jalen Samuels is the guy behind James Conner. I think James Conner is the most talented running back there. At least he's my favorite running back there. And then with the quarterback thing, I don't trust Mason Rudolph as a starting quarterback. I just don't. And I don't trust Big Ben's health. And I know there's a Steelers fan out there that told me that Big Ben hasn't been hurt since 2013, really, except for missing a portion of last season. And in my opinion, he's just been hurt over his career, and his body's breaking down. And you never know when Big Ben's going to retire. He's been talking about retirement since he was like 28. So you never know. I think if they could have gotten Jalen Hurts in the second round, that would have been good as well. I wouldn't have been mad against it. What this team needs to do, and they're not going to do it, they need to just sign Cam Newton as a backup, as an insurance policy. Granted, he's another injured quarterback, but I'm just saying they need to upgrade that backup quarterback position. Let's talk about what they did do, though. Let's talk about that first pick. Chase Claypool, he's a big dude out of Notre Dame. Some people say he should be playing tight end with how large he is. And he's going to try and prove him wrong, play receiver. I like his catch radius. He's very raw, though, and he needs him. He can polish up that route running. I don't really care where he plays. But what do you think about that Claypool pick?
Claypool, I think he could almost play tight end. Here's a little fun fact. He only got, he wasn't getting any offers to play college ball out of high school until he started uploading highlight videos to Facebook, and then he finally started getting offers, and he end up going to Notre Dame. So that's just kind of interesting how social media can play that role in today's game. Like you said, he's great at winning the 50-50 balls deep. He puts himself in the position to get over the defensive back and get that ball. He's got that size to box the defender out. He's not great at getting separation. He's got good top end speed, but he's not great at acceleration. So that like affects his yards after the catch as well. He's not a great yards after the catch guy. He needs a few steps to build up speed. But he's a very good athlete. He can play outside, winning those 50-50 balls. He can play slot as a possession receiver. So I think he should develop well alongside with that like receiving core, and he'll be a good like addition to Juju Smith and.
Well, I'll talk about that there. I agree. He'll be a nice comment along those receivers. What's really interesting here, before we talk about who those guys are, is this is the 3rd out of 4 years that the Steelers have taken a receiver in the 2nd round. And 4 out of 4 years, they've taken a receiver on day 2, which is rounds 2 and 3. Everybody they got in their top 4 right now. So Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington, Deontay Johnson, and now Chase Claypool. Why I said this pick was interesting and they could have went a different direction was just because, like I said, I don't trust Jalen Samuels. I don't trust Benny Snell Jr. I know they drafted McFarland Jr. later on, who I do like. But those 3 receivers I just listed, that's 3 years in a row of drafting somebody on day 2 to be a receiver for you. They just signed Eric Ebron. They have Vance McDonald. I think they have enough pass catchers. The Steelers team likes to use lots of options. I just think that they could have waited to go receiver till later. I don't dislike Chase Claypool. I think this guy has a lot of upside. And if he can develop, like I said, he's going to be a steal this draft potentially, because he's a workout warrior. He's one of those guys that's going to come in, he's going to give you 120%. And I know all these things I'm saying are like cliches and redundant, but he's going to work very hard for this team. He's going to prove that he's worth his draft stock and his draft capital. Let's move on. Let's talk about somebody else. Tell me another player that you think was a good impact, that will make a good impact for this.
I don't know if there are any other players that are going to come in right away and make a huge impact, and that's kind of comes with that kind of happens when you don't have a first round pick. And I don't think that this team drafted really like for those kinds of players. They really just more added depth at a lot of spots. One player I know that a lot of Steelers fans are excited about is Kevin Dotson. He's that offensive lineman who came out of Louisiana. And this is a big dude. He's a really strong run blocker. He's just kind of he's not. I don't think he's ready to start a full year yet. Depending on if they have training camp this year. He, like I said, he's very strong, very good in the run game. He's not very agile in pass protection. He kind of he doesn't bend his knees. He hasn't got the footwork exactly to be very reliable in the pass game still, but I think that's something that can be taught. One thing that's funny, he held a Twitter vote to have the fans choose his number, and of course you know what number they chose for him, right?
69.
Yeah, 69. That was pretty funny. He said his tweet after the poll was over said, "Well, the votes are in, 69 it is, till more numbers open up." So that's pretty funny. 69's hilarious.
Let's switch over to the defensive side. The player they got in the 6th round at pick 198. It's Antoine Brooks Jr., safety out of Maryland, and actually the Steelers, they kind of fancied themselves Maryland players because they double dipped here. Like I said, they got Anthony McFarland Jr. in the 4th, and now in the 6th they get Antoine Brooks Jr. Now, as a safety, what I like about him is I like guys that are willing to lay it all on the line. He's very physical. This guy grew up with the mentality of Pittsburgh football, is what you would say, I keep using these words when I describe defenders that are physical and hard workers and go to the ball, but he's gritty, he's a nose grinder. He's gonna take his shoulder and drive it through your chest type of guy. And I think he's very versatile because he can step up in sub packages and step up and play that linebacker position. And he's a really great tackler. That's what I like about this. Now, those are the positives. He can't cover anybody, in my opinion. If he lines up in sub packages, comes down, tries covering a tight end, he's gonna get like guys like. I mean, obviously he's a 6th round pick, but guys like George Kittle are gonna rip this guy for shreds with how good they can separate and everything. He's a great tackler, but he's not gonna be one of those guys that can like press, prevent somebody from cutting on their routes, use that upper body strength to stop that and cut that route short. He's one of those guys that's going to make good plays in open field at getting tackles. I also fear that he can get beat over top, get beat deep and everything, get caught with his eyes on the quarterback for too long. But like I said, he's really versatile, multiple positions, very physical. Do you have anything to add on?
Yeah, I just think he should play well as like in certain situations, like you said, where they need to bring an extra blitzer or like doubling up on the run and things like that. So yeah, I mean, as a 6th round pick, he can come in, play, like be that role player, and kind of work on his coverage skills in training camp.
All right, last player to talk about here, Alex Highsmith, 6'4", 242-pound edge rusher out of Charlotte. This guy has a lot of pros to him, a couple of cons here, but let's talk about him. He's the 3rd round pick. They got him at 102.
Okay, so like you said, they drafted Alex Highsmith, who's an outside linebacker from Charlotte in the 3rd round, pick 102. I don't have a whole lot to say about him. He's explosive. He's a good tackler. I think he should help out in the run game. And I think, I mean, that's already a very strong defense, so he should come in and be able to learn well on that defense.
Yeah, the one thing I have on him, like I agree, he's with his explosiveness and his first step is really good. His ability to close down on the quarterback and running backs in the backfield is very good. He doesn't have great length, is what I'm kind of seeing and like struggling with, like believing in. And due to that lack of length, he's not able to get a lot of separation. And he doesn't really produce his whole college career. It took him until his senior year to break out. He had 14 sacks his senior season. He had a combined 6 in the 3 years before that. But on top of his 14 sacks, I mean, he had 75 combined tackles as an outside linebacker, edge rusher. I think that he is going to be able to provide something for this team that he, just like I said, with his explosiveness, with his ability to press, he'll be able to do fine. I like I say, I know a lot of fans of the Steelers are happy about him. I just worry about his length. And if his length is going to become an issue in college, the offensive linemen he goes up against in the pros are bigger, longer, stronger. If he can keep adding and adapting to his like first step, like I said, and develop some more pass rushing moves on the edge with his agility and his ability to get to the rusher and close down that gap, I think he's going to be able to provide some upside and some success for this team that, like you said, is already pretty good at defense. Like, this Steelers team came on late last year and overcame not having James Conner every game and Big Ben every game. There's no Antonio Brown to fall on. And you know what? Juju was kind of hurt here and there and wasn't playing top notch. And this team fought very hard. A guy like Alex Highsmith is a security blanket for Bud Dupree. In the off chance that you lose Bud Dupree, Highsmith can spend a year learning, develop, move forward, and maybe be a partner for TJ Watt if Dupree doesn't stay.
Yeah, and I think one last player that we have to talk about, or they're going to murder us in the comments, is Minkah Fitzpatrick, just because he's essentially their 1st round pick, and he was completely worth the pick. I think if we would have put him in that poll, no one would have voted for anyone else. And I think we're only grading the actual draft here, but if we were going to include Minkah Fitzpatrick in that like grade, I think they would grade a lot higher. He came in right away and just he tore it up. I think it was well worth the pick.
Yeah, I agree. His playmaking ability was high. You know, he had a forced fumble, 5 interceptions, 57 total tackles, just rating stats off of ESPN. You know, but he brings more of that because he has He has good zone coverage skills, and I think that if like Minka Fitzpatrick was in this draft, he wouldn't have made it to pick 8. So it's a very rare situation to trade away your first round pick for a player straight up in this situation, especially safety. Nonetheless, but the fit works. It's great. He's a great player. They got good value out of it. Looking back now, the Steelers team, okay. I think they could have hit a lot harder where they were drafting. I know. I get it. It's not a reach because they took him where they took him. That's his official place. It's only a need because the GMs say it's a need. I get it. We just think, as common folk, that the Steelers could have done a little bit more to make a bigger impact on this team due to the fact that they had a lack of that first round pick. Minka Fitzpatrick is a very big plus. However, he was not drafted by them. Therefore, we're going to give a fair grade and we're going to give them a C+.
And that's only for the draft. That's not fair. Just remember, that's not including Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, if we were including Minka Fitzpatrick, this would be moved up to a B+ easy for them. But that's because Minka Fitzpatrick was such a success for them, brought so much to the table, and is going to be a long-term starter for them because he just fits so well. He is a Steeler. He's not a Dolphin. This is a good fit. But let's move on. Okay, let's talk about the Browns. They didn't win this draft. They're one of my winners of the offseason. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think they had a good offseason, and their draft I was also very pleased with. The Browns, the first round, they got Jedrick Wills from Alabama, the offensive tackle. Second round, Grant Delpit, safety from LSU. In round 3, they picked up Jordan Elliott, the defensive tackle from Missouri, and Jacob Phillips, linebacker from LSU as well. In the 4th, Harrison Bryant is a tight end from Florida Atlantic. In the 5th, Nick Harris, a center from Washington. And then the 6th, a player I know you like is Donovan Peoples-Jones at wide receiver from Michigan. Talking to Browns fans, their favorite pick by far, and I think their best pick was Jedrick Wills. I had him as my number 1 tackle in this draft. He's the most pro-ready tackle out of those top 4 we talked about before. He's got very technically sound. He's big. He's strong. He allowed 1 sack his entire career at Alabama, which is insane. And I like him better than Wirfs, who went not long after him to the Bucks. And who was a player that you liked?
Well, before I talk about a player I like, let's keep in this order. Let's talk about Jedrick Wills. He was my number 2 tackle behind Andrew Thomas. And the main reason why I have a separation between those two is just because my only question is, can he play left tackle? Because he essentially was the left tackle for Tua Tagovailoa, playing right tackle for Alabama. And that's the only thing I have to worry about is his transition. Now, do I believe he's going to make that transition? Yes. Can he? That's yet to be seen. I do agree that he is an amazing tackle. I think that he's got great strength. What I love is that he's not good in just like one aspect. Like a lot of times when we talk about these rookies coming to the draft for offensive linemen, like tackles, whatever, we sit here and we're like, oh man, they're so good in the run game. They're so good in the pass game. Like, no, this guy can block for anything. And he does it effectively, efficiently. He doesn't give up sacks. He doesn't get beat. The fact that he was able to only allow 1 sack, I know it's Alabama, but still, the pass rushers in the SEC are amazing every year. And that's just what stands out even more. He played against the highest competition, some of the best defensive players in the nation, and he was able to persevere, withstand, and protect. He needs to play left tackle because of their free agent addition of Jack Conklin, who is, as we agree, a dominant right tackle. This is a great pick. Not just for the Browns, not for fans, but for Baker Mayfield. Like we said, we could talk positives about Jedrick Wills for hours, and you guys are just in saying that he's a great pick. We agree. Let's talk about some other players here. let's move to the second round. Pick 44, Grant Delpit. Now, I like to look at professionals. It's weird to say professional NFL draft mockers or columnists. Matt Miller, going into the 2019 season, back in like August or July, had Grant Delpit as his number 5 prospect. And oh man, he fall 39 spots from that. Let's talk about him. Did he fall because he's not that good, as he was projected, or did he just play on an amazing team that kind of overshadowed his talent?
Well, I think the big knock on him and why people are kind of scared of him is that he misses a lot of tackles. He's not a great tackler. Sorry, yeah, he's not a great tackler, and that's kind of why he fell and why he's not thought of as highly as other defensive backs in this class. What I do think he's in terms of position, he's pretty flexible. He's good in coverage. He can be that center fielder. I think he fits better as a free safety. So that since if he's a free safety, he's not going to be up in the box a whole lot, and we'll have to worry less about those tackles. But that is something he needs to work on. But at LSU, he was also asked to come in and blitz from the outside and play in the box. I think if he comes into the NFL and sticks to that free safety position, I think he can succeed. I think he can be a good player.
Yeah, I agree. I think he has great zone coverage skills. He is it's weird to say, it's hard to tell this and everything, but I think he's a natural ball hawk. I think he has a great nose for the ball. He can read zones very well. He can read quarterbacks very well. I think this guy's very intelligent. For cons, I said the same thing. I have in my notes written down that his tackling in the open field is one thing that I worry about. However, he's got great length. He's very physical. I think this might end up being, when we look down the road in 2-3 years, this might be one of the steals of the draft. When we talk about the top 5 best steals, I think this could be one. Just due to the fact that he was such a high profile player coming into the season. Then LSU has this blow up of a season, and they have so many talented players. They had 14 guys go in this draft, for Christ's sake. I think he is going to be a mainstay on this team. Now, yes, the Browns brought in Carl Joseph. They brought in Andrew Sanjeo. Carl Joseph's on a 1-year deal. Sanjeo had a hard time keeping a starting job in Minnesota. He mainly only started when there was injuries. I like both those guys, though. I think they're great guys for Delpit to come in, be humbled, sit back for a year, learn, and develop, and come out blazing the next year. Let's talk some more about these Browns. I liked a lot of things they did. Jordan Elliott, great run stuffer from Missouri. Harrison Bryant in the 4th round at 115, I thought was maybe the most athletic tight end outside of, speed. He's not the fastest tight end. Overall athleticism, route running, I thought he's a great tight end. It's a puzzling pick due to what they brought in Hooper and they have Njoku. Let's move down to their 6th round pick, 187, wide receiver, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Michigan. What do you got on him?
Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones, I know you like him because you're a big Michigan guy. But he's a real big, tall wide receiver. He can kind of go up and get those high passes and everything. I think his draft stock suffered a lot because of his quarterback play. He didn't really have any good quarterbacks throwing to him throughout his career in Michigan. And I think that's something that really hurt him in the end. But I think if he can come in, he could potentially be a really good sleeper pick. If he does get some playing time, he can come in, get those jump balls, and I think is a good spot for him, to be honest.
I think Donovan Peoples-Jones has the potential to be the number 4 receiver for this Browns team. I think after Beckham, Landry, the re-signing of Higgins, I think DPJ, I agree. He suffered from his quarterback play. And it's not just Shea Patterson who fumbled around and didn't deliver on this hype that he should have had for Michigan. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, over his career, had several different quarterbacks throwing to him. I mean, if you remember Michigan back in 2017, they had like 3 or 4 quarterbacks playing for them. It was just a shit show. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it was no bueno.
But Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think, is a great value pick. For a draft, I think if Donovan Peoples-Jones came out last year or next year, 2 wide receiver classes that had, like, were top heavy, didn't have a lot of depth, he would have been drafted closer to the 4th round. But he fell just due to how diverse and how, like, the depth of this class. I love this pickup for him, for the Browns. I think this guy brings a lot to this team. Here's what I like about him. Playing in the Big Ten, like I said, most of these guys, and maybe I'm just being biased and whatever, but most players in the Big Ten that play offense, play guard, they're great blockers. And for a receiver, he's a very good blocker. And guess what this Browns team likes to do? They like to run the ball. They got Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, 2 running backs that like to get the ball, move it a lot. Jarvis Landry likes to catch underneath passes, yards after catch. Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to be a guy that's going to come in, be able to block, help this team out. He's also got amazing sideline awareness or control, however you want to talk about it. He's already established well enough to get 2 feet in bounds. He knows where he's at all times. And I also like his 50-50 balls. He doesn't have like the biggest like catch radius. However, he has that ability to box out defenders and win a ball when he needs. Getting a quarterback like Baker Mayfield is going to help him a lot more than Shea Patterson, who I was praising for a couple of years, but Baker's better. Cleveland Browns, for a grade, B+. If we're going to grade the offseason as a whole, from free agency to this, solid A. This team has done so well to improve themselves. They didn't go out there and get flash. This whole offseason has been not about flash. They went out there, they had great free agent pickups, got great positional needs, didn't trade OBJ, they kept him, which is smart. Trusting Baker Mayfield, didn't draft a backup for him. This team is setting up for success. I agree about what you say about Baker Mayfield. The people, tell them what you told me about Baker Mayfield now that he has this offseason and this draft.
Well, Baker Mayfield, they've built a team for him. Like, they have done everything they can this offseason and last to put him in a position to succeed. So I think it's kind of on him. It's a bit on the coaching staff as well. I don't think Freddie Kitchens helped him at all last year, but I think he's in a position to succeed now. And I think that after this year, I don't think he'll have any excuses. So I think he's going to do well this year.
All right, like we said, B+, but let's transition. Let's move to similar color scheme. Let's keep the orange going. Cincinnati Bengals, congratulations. You're the number 1 pick. You took Joe Burrow. Everybody knew you were going to do it. And guess what? It's the best damn pick of the draft. Okay? You are going to transcend your team from this pick right here. We love it. Everybody loves it. I was praising you guys. Although if you were listening to our mock draft, I was saying you guys need to trade this pick. However, this was the right move. Aaron, tell the people who the Cincinnati Bengals took. Let's just talk about, they had the top pick every round. Just give me their first 4 picks.
All right, first 4 picks. Like you said, Joe Burrow, that was a surprise to no one. Then at the top of the second, T. Higgins from Clemson, big wide receiver. In the third, they took Logan Wilson, a linebacker from Wyoming. And then in the fourth, linebacker and Akeem Davis-Gaither from Appalachian State. Like you said, Joe Burrow, this was not a surprise to anyone. This was always going to be the pick, and he's a great player. I love watching him play. Um, he's he's great on the fly. Like when prediction breaks down, he makes things happen. He's the only quarterback in this class whose rating went up under pressure, which is insane. It was like 140 something, throwing under pressure, which is just crazy to me. To be honest, I don't want to make any assumptions here, but it reminds me of Patrick Mahomes, the way he's able to improvise, and he does like every game. It seems like Pat Mahomes has this crazy like, how did he do that? Like the no look pass, eh, or against the Broncos, some threw a left-handed pass. Like who does that? So I think Joe Burrow is kind of the same. Like he just has that natural ability to make something from nothing. Um, we talked about it in the mock draft. He doesn't have elite arm strength, but I don't see that being a problem with him. Um, and another thing I like about him is his attitude. Like I just like when I think of him, I think about that, like him with the after the championship game, smoking a cigar, still in his jersey. I mean, he's got this swagger that someone like Andy Dalton never had. Like he's kind of like the literal opposite of Andy Dalton in that respect. Like he comes in, he's gonna I think he's gonna pump up those players. I think he's a great leader, and I think he's gonna resurrect the franchise.
I agree, and I've already been saying, if you listen to our little preview, I said that Joe Burrow is going to be the Marvin Lewis of quarterback. What I mean by that is that Cincinnati Bengals, you can expect to have a quarterback for the next 15 years to help you finally get a playoff win since the 90s. It has been way too long. You guys need to come back to life, overtake, and dominate. And guess what? Joe Burrow is the guy. I don't know a nickname for him yet, and I want a nickname for him. I mean, because like, what do we have? We have Danny. We have Danny Dimes from last year. You know, I want a nickname for Burrow, and eventually, something's gonna come too.
Man, he's
This
Joe
guy,
Cool.
ooh, Joe Cool. Okay, there you go. You know what, people? I've been corrected. Joe Cool. Here's what I like is that he is gonna come in, be able to like forget the rest of this draft class. They could have just drafted Joe Burrow and had no picks, and I'd have been happy with this draft class. He's going to be able to use the tools given to him. Like we said, he's got AJ Green. If healthy, still a top receiver, even at 31 plus years old. He's going to be able to come in and be a leader for this team. He's got Tyler Boyd, a great number two, an amazing number two, someone that's developing very well. Now he gets T. Higgins, who has, we'll talk about him in a second. I think T. Higgins is the perfect receiver for Joe Burrow. Like, there couldn't be a better matchup for T. Higgins.
I've got a fun fact for you. You know what numbers Joe Burrow and T. Higgins are wearing?
No.
Joe Burrow's got number 9, and T. Higgins is taking number 85, Ocho Cinco. That's like reviving the old days of Carson Palmer to Ocho Cinco, who, by the way, Chad Johnson was banging the table for T. Higgins, for the Bengals to take T. Higgins this draft. So if they can produce like those two did back in like the mid 2000s, that would be great.
Let's talk about that for a second. Joe Burrow is going to be better than Carson Palmer. T. Higgins might be almost as good as Ocho Cinco. Can we call him Chad Johnson? It feels so weird. I don't know. What do you call the guy? Like, how does he introduce himself when he shows up to parties? Does he go, "Hello, I'm Ocho Cinco"? Or like, how does he, like?
I don't think he needs any introduction. People just know him.
He just shows up in his made from scratch old jacket. But Cincinnati Bengals fans, Joe Burrow is the guy. I'm so excited to see him on this team. I'm happy they didn't trade. Let's move on. That's obvious. The Twitter, like over on Reddit, the poll was easily gonna go Burrow's favor. Let's talk about the top two guys after Burrow. Lead us off with T. Higgins.
Yeah, I love T. Higgins. I think he should have gone in the first round. There's definitely some players that I would have taken him over them. I kind of have this thing for like big, tall receivers who can box out the defensive back and go up and make those contested catches.
6'4", 215 pounds.
Yeah, this is a big fella. He knows how to use his frame to get the ball to make those catches. He's bigger than most cornerbacks. He's not great getting like release off of those cornerbacks. Like he's not great against press coverage. But I mean, that's not really a problem when you take into his size and the fact that he can just outfight those players for the ball. So I really like this pick for him.
Yeah, for me, T. Higgins is it's weird. I think T. Higgins was like the 6th or 7th best receiver here. That's not a knock on him. This wide receiver class was amazing. I just put him down a little bit lower because he needs to polish his route running a little bit. I think his release is weak, in my opinion. Now, when I say weak, I am an average Joe. Oh, bring back pros versus Joes. I'm an average Joe. Okay, my route running is pathetic. However,
yeah, I've seen it. It's really not. You don't want to watch that.
Exactly. But him going into the pros, his route running is weak. What I mean by that, though, is that he just needs to be able to cut a little bit quicker. He needs to work on his agility. Right now, he needs to be running cone drills nonstop to get a little bit quicker off his step, be able to cut faster. And I think that's the only thing that's kind of hindering his game. That, in his first step, his like release off the line is sluggish. It's heavy. And I think that he can be able to... What I like about this is those are things that you can work on by yourself and improve. Like I right now could go work on that stuff and be slightly above average, a bum, if I just worked on my stuff. You know, that's what I'm saying. So a professional like him now can grow his game even more just by working in his backyard. Let's talk about the pros though, okay? I love his hands. Great hands. He could be a hand model with how good he is at snagging balls. Okay? He can snag anything. His catch radius is insane. That's due to his massive frame at 6'4". And what I like about that is the fact that he can grab anything. And Joe Burrow, who is so accurate as his quarterback, that's why, as I referenced, let's zoom back a couple seconds when I said they were a great pairing. That's why. Joe Burrow's accuracy, T. Higgins' catch radius, love it. Another thing, he had 19.8 yards after the catch in 2019. Hold on a second. Sorry. I'm going to correct myself. He averaged 19.8 yards a catch in 2019. 2 years with Trevor Lawrence. He had 118 catches, 2,103 yards, 25 touchdowns. That right there is as the number one guy. Now, he gets to go up against the second, maybe third, maybe fourth best cornerback. Maybe a linebacker that's a little bit slow and not agile. T. Higgins is going to eat up defenses in the NFL with Joe Burrow as his quarterback. All right. Is there anybody that they drafted after the first 2 rounds that you really like or that Reddit liked?
Well, a player I know that some people are kind of excited about. First of all, from what I've seen, people are kind of excited about both their 3rd and their 4th round picks. Both linebackers. I want to talk about Logan Wilson, who they picked at 65 at the top of the 3rd from Wyoming. Logan Wilson he's kind of a jack of all trades type of player. Throughout his career, like he did pretty much everything. He had a lot of tackles. He had 35 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 10 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, 4 fumble recoveries, and 3 defensive touchdowns. So he does it all at that position. I think, in my opinion, he was a victim of playing at a smaller school, playing against weaker competition. He was first team All Mountain West conference in the senior year. and he was a second team All American his senior year. So I think that shows how highly he's thought of in the football circles. I think he'll be a good partner for Jermaine Pratt on the Bengals, and I think he will. If he doesn't start, I mean, I don't know if he's supposed to start right away, but I think he will come in and he'll be a good contributor for that team.
See, what I like how we have this here is that you're a fan of him. I'm a fan of a different linebacker. I really like pick 107, Hakeem Davis Gaither. Okay, guys, I might have butchered the last name. I don't know. It's a hyphen. Who's a hyphen? It's 2020. Get over yourself. Anyways, what I like about him out of Appalachian State, the linebacker, is the fact that he has really great speed. He's a very efficient tackler. He can close down the gap, and he can get the job done. You know, he had 204 total tackles in his last 2 years. That right there just emphasizes on his close down speed. Yes, a lot of those, more than half, were assisted tackles. But I don't really give a shit about if it's assisted tackles or solo tackles. To me, when it's an assisted tackle, that means that tackler A couldn't get the job done. And right here, we have Akeem coming on in to finish the job, okay? You know who else gets a lot of assisted tackles? Luke Kuechly, okay? So I don't care. I think this guy is going to be a very good linebacker for them. He's going to be able to fill in for Nick Vigil, he's going to be able to come in and potentially sub in and, take over Nick Vigil's spot. The one thing I don't like that he can't do is that he's not strong enough to beat guards or centers on the inside. He cannot blitz up the middle. He needs to come off the edge. Now, I'm not saying he's a great edge rusher by any means. However, up the middle, he doesn't have the strength to take on those big, beefy, baconators of offensive linemen that they are. But I like this pickup. I love the Bengals draft. The fact that the Bengals kind of were just like, yeah, we got a top pick every round. We'll just kind of hang out. And they got good value at every pick. I'm a fan of it. I love T. Higgins. I would have loved him more had they not wasted money on AJ Green. Like if they would have just let him go and use that 10 plus million on another position, Higgins would have made more sense.
Well, I think he's kind of a safety valve in that if they don't end up getting a long-term deal with AJ Green, they can have him play this year as the number 2 receiver and then have him next year take that number 1 spot. Kind of like what the Steelers did with Juju and Antonio Brown. I think it's kind of a similar situation. Just AJ Green isn't literally insane.
No, and I get that. I totally get that. And I'm not a fan of John Ross. Whatever, he's fast. I get it. A guy that the reason why I think they could have let go of AJ Green is because they have Auden Tate. He's a 7th round pick from 2 years ago, but he had 500 plus yards, almost 600. He doesn't get touchdowns, but he averages over 14 yards a catch. I think Auden Tate is a really good number 3, and I think the Bengals in 2021 are going to look very good. Now, let's talk about something that they didn't do. This Bengals team decided, and this is why I'm not against it, but like Logan Wilson at 65 could have been fixed with an offensive tackle a lot earlier. They waited to the 6th round to get an offensive tackle. Here's my problem with it. You have Joe Burrow. Protect him. Okay? The left side of the line, I like. Jonah Williams, he's had a year to recover. He's going to be healthy. There we go. Billy Price, step in, be able to be a dominant safety. Billy Price should be able to step in, become a dominant center that he's supposed to be, that everybody loves. Left side of the line, from center over, I'm happy with. However, Xavier Su'a-Filo and Bobby Hart, or whoever plays right tackle, I'm just not a fan of. Xavier last year graded out as a 60.1 on Pro Football Focus, and Bobby Hart graded as a 57.7 on Pro Football Focus. And Bobby Hart, mind you, had 8 penalties and 6 sacks. I know, those aren't like historically high numbers, but I'm not a fan of them. That's 14 mistakes, 14 crucial mistakes that either result in loss of yards or potential injury to my franchise quarterback in Joe Cool. I think the Bengals next year in 2021 need to draft a right tackle, and they'll be fine. Otherwise, I'm very happy with this draft. Aaron, we call them the winners of the draft. They get the same grade as the Bengals, as the Browns, B+. Are you okay with that?
I think I would have given them like a bit higher, A- or A. I think, or like a B++, because I mean, it's the same grade as the Browns, but I think they had a slightly better draft. The main knock is that, like you said, I think they should have addressed the tackle earlier. But other than that, I think it was a really good draft. I don't think they're going to go out with the Super Bowl this year, but I think they did improve their team.
I think this is very similar to the Arizona Cardinals from 2 years ago when they had the number 1 pick. We're going to see a team that had, like a handful of wins, 2 to 3 wins, and they're going to be able to move themselves up to about 6 wins, and I think that'd be very comfortable. And Joe Burrow, don't listen to Peyton Manning and any advice he gives you on, I hope that you break my interception rookie record. Don't listen to him. You're too accurate for that. Let Peyton Manning live for eternity in the interception record as rookie. Already, AFC North fans, we are done with your division. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. This has been a fun division. And you know what? Everybody on Reddit that has been shitting on us, thank you. We appreciate. We are always aiming to get better, aiming to improve. We are here to provide content for you fans in a time of crisis, in a time of need. Yes, your state might be reopening, but we're still in a crisis. We are here to provide extra content for you guys. If you don't like what we have to say, guess what? There's a comment section. Let us know what we did wrong. We're here to improve and get better every time. All right? We're looking at you, Las Vegas Raider fans and Houston Texans fans. We're here to improve and get better every week and every episode. This is Second and Short. I am Tyler Lauder. He is the Aaron Benn. You guys have a good night.
And a special shout out to my best friend Kevin. He's a good dude. He's always got my back. He never talks any shit about me, and he always lends me money whenever I need, and he buys me McDonald's. So thank you, Kevin.
You don't even know a Kevin.
I panicked. I couldn't think of any.